All right, we'd like to welcome a very special guest onto our show. He is credited for being the key background designer on films and shows such as Batman the Animated Series, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, Superman the Animated Series, The New Batman Adventures, Batman Beyond, Justice League, The Adventures of Batman and Robin video game, the Powerpuff Girls movie, Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker, and so many more. Please join us in welcoming Keith Weesner to the show. Keith, how are you today?
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And Will's here too.
I'm here. I made it. I made it. I'm here.
He actually made it to a guest appearance.
I just spelled whiskey all over my computer, but it's working, so that's fine. Not that I'm drinking scotch while doing this. Anyway, welcome to the show.
So Keith, thanks so much for coming on, man. The backgrounds of Batman the Animated Series and all of the DCAU are obviously so well known and synonymous with that style. So my first question is, how did you start working on Batman the Animated Series?
Well, one little building block there that I can't seem to find is, I don't remember what year it started. I think it was 92, 91 or 92. I don't remember, and I don't know how to check, but it was a really random thing that I got a job there. And when I did start, they were just about ready to go into production. They had almost all of the primary locations designed in the vehicles. So I actually, like, not to go on for too long about it, but a friend told me about it, and she had tried to get a job on the little guy that goes real fast.
Oh, TAS. Is it TAS? TAS. There we go.
Yeah,
I love TAS.
I was trying out. She tried out for TAS, didn't get the job for some reason, and then she said, "This would be perfect for you." So I went in. I had to, like, borrow this broken down Audi from my friend and drive in. And anyway, I was driving the '68 Dart, and I went out all the way up to Sherman Oaks from Long Beach, and I showed them my portfolio, and they're like, "Okay, you got to do this test and for Tasmania." And meanwhile, I'm looking at all the designs along the top of the wall, and I'm like seeing all these Art Deco blimp and 40s looking police cars, and I'm like, "What's that? Like, that's cool." And then, like, Eric Radomski kind of poked his head out of his office. Hey, what are you doing? What do you got there? And he, like, looked at my portfolio. He was like, don't do that. Come on, you don't want to do that. And he, like, totally stole me from Taz. And he gave me a test to do, so I went home and did, like, a street scene with the Batmobile blasting down it. And they were like, "Cool, you're hired." And it was so quick. And I went from working in an art supply store, living with my parents, going like, "What am I gonna do?" Because I got kicked out of art center. I was studying car design there, and it just wasn't going well, financially and stamina wise. But I had never pictured doing this at all. I didn't know anything about it, and I just literally fell into this dream job, and I started working on it. And the first background I did was a bridge that's turned into a key element that was seen a lot. And it was like they made puzzles and coffee mugs and all kinds of stuff with that background on it. So that was the first thing I did there. And
I think I know what bridge you're talking about as well. Does it have?
It's got kind of triangles cut out of it, and it's just like big Art Deco thing. And
does it have red lights at the top of each peak? There's like 2 red beacons, or am I thinking of another one?
I have a coffee mug here. Hold on.
I wish I had a coffee mug of something I
do. Yeah. Here's the coffee mug. It's got.
I know what bridge that is. Yeah.
Anyway, so
awesome.
I should have had this mug instead of my Mark Maron one.
So were you always drawn more to drawing like architecture and scenery over figure drawing and illustration?
I did a lot of. I'm really into architecture, but I never studied anything about it. I studied car design at Art Center, but I thought I was going to be a car designer. But the thing about studying car design is they teach you to draw everything.
Yeah.
And if you're a fine artist at Art Center, you might not draw much at all. You might just be like writing a thesis on why this, ball of string is important or something. But I think it's better than that. But still, it's a lot of the people I worked with were car designers on Batman. A lot of the guys were people who worked in Detroit for a while and figured it wasn't for them, and they ended up, in animation. So because they just had, the training to draw anything.
Yeah. Did you get to draw a lot of the vehicles in the show? Like, did you manage to get those into the backgrounds, or was it mainly backgrounds
Well,
and
I was really into early era custom cars, and I have a chopped 50 Ford that's like an early Barris style car, and it's kind of like early 50s, and it's real simple and low, and it looks like something that would be on the show. And I
right?
put cars like that in the backgrounds, but the I didn't do the like I would draw cars that were painted, and then like Shane and John Fisher would draw cars that were moving because they were prop guys. So a lot of the things don't make any sense if you're not in animation. It's like, well, you draw a car and you draw a car. What's the difference? It's like, well, one's a background, one's a prop.
Right.
But yeah, I did a lot of cars, and I if a lot of times there's a street scene and all the cars look like a Barrett's custom or something, and it's because I just kept putting them in like that.
Awesome.
But
That's so cool. I love that
yeah,
because yeah, that just fits the aesthetic so much. And I mean, there are vehicles as well, like the Batmobile, that are sometimes like the keyed into the background, but then they're not props, as you said. They are static. Like you
yeah,
can just see it, and you just can tell by the texture. It's almost like a matte painting, the way
yeah.
it's keyed in there.
Mhm.
So is that something that you guys had to do as well from time to time? Is draw those static things like the Batmobile?
Yeah, yeah. I did a lot of close-ups of vehicles that were someone's getting out of it and it's not moving, so I'm drawing the part of the windshield or so I drew the Batmobile a few times like that, but uh, not a lot. It's usually I would just draw whatever it wasn't parked or.
And
But
Right.
did you like comic books before this, or Batman or anything? Or...
well, I have a strange relationship with comics because um one of my best friends growing up was Glen Murakami, and we would he was really into everything, superheroes and action comics, and I only liked weird stuff like I liked Love and Rockets, and I liked uh what was the one, Grendel, and just all the stuff Bill Sienkiewicz was doing in the late '80s. I was just adored that stuff, and I wanted to do comics like that, but I just didn't have the storytelling chops and the it's a very specific skill, as uh, composition and storytelling, page flow. I don't know that stuff. I'd have to go to school for that or something. And I've done a few things like that, but it's very hard. And but I was really into comics, but it was sort of that late '80s explosion of really expressive things, like Stray Toasters was my favorite thing. And just all the wacky stuff Bill Sienkiewicz did. And
So you
but
weren't like a EC Comics kid or
no, I
anything like
didn't like
that?
grow up with superheroes and stuff. Like my uncle had Silver Surfer comics from the '60s that I used to look at, but I just thought they were kind of boring because I was used to looking at Mad Magazine and stuff.
Yeah. So
Right.
And
you didn't like EC Comics, like all the horror stuff or anything like that?
I never really had that much contact with that.
Right.
I was talking to Glenn the other day, like I'd like to get all those and just soak it up, and because a lot of people cite that as influence, and I never really had any of those. So and he was like, "Well, you just need to get this and this and this, and the whole lot of the other stuff is not great, but but I still want to get that stuff." But yeah, it's kind of I used to go to the Comic Con, but it was just in the late '80s and up till '93. And when I went in '93, I had my Batman jacket, and I was with the crew, and I was so proud of being on the show. And
Do you
and I
still
look
have your
back at it,
Batman jacket?
yeah, some guy been after me to buy it for a lot of money, and I'm just like, I don't. It's kind of strange. It's like
Yeah,
my
some of the
jacket.
guys on the crew have sold their jacket. One, I forget who it was that recently sold his for like $800 or something crazy.
Well, this
It's
guy wanted to give me a couple grand for it, and I
wow,
was like,
that's nuts.
yeah. Anyway,
Piece of history.
but
Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes
So,
I'll wear it to the store, and people just look at it like, "What?" And it says like 90. I guess it says 92 on it, so I guess but I think I started a year, so I think I probably started in 91.
yeah.
But yeah, it says like Batman Crew 92, and people are looking at me. They're probably thinking like, "How old is he?"
So you were talking about influences before that other people on the show were pulling from, but what influences specifically did you pull from when creating your backgrounds?
Well, I've always been a big fan of design, uh, whether it's appliances, furniture, architecture. I was fascinated. I have a lot of architecture books, even though it's not something I studied. And I was always fascinated with the Art Deco and design in all the like late 30s World's Fairs. And that's one of the things that I'm not really sure how this happened, but I was really into the I think it was the 38 World's Fair. And there's a documentary about it that I forget the actor. There's an actor that went there when he was a kid and he shot home movies of it. And he did like a documentary about the 39 World's Fair. And I was just totally fascinated with it because a lot of the things were like Disneyland rides before there were, like the Haunted Mansion or something, or the Pirates of the Caribbean. There was like, you get in a little moving chair like it in the haunted house, and it would move you through like here's the future and here's the auto gyro and stuff. And we put a lot of that stuff in the show.
A
And
lot like the movie Phantasm, in fact, like the Mask
yeah,
of the
I
Phantasm.
when we were this is one of my favorite things about working there is we were all friends, the
Right.
writers, the directors, the producers. So when we're doing a new show, the writers would be like thinking of, hey, we're going to do this. And and even though I'm just a background designer, I would suggest things and sometimes they would end up in the show. And that was really a trip, but I can't say, oh, it's my idea, because maybe 9 people were talking about it and they all said the same thing. I have no idea. But I was like, I kept bringing in stuff like, look at this from the 39 World's Fair. And the background director, Ted Blackman, he's very knowledgeable and he knew all about all of that already. But I was the one who was just like, this is so cool. We got to do something with this. And I did all these ideas because there's always like at the end of an episode, there's a fight at the old abandoned amusement park, and it's a really tired trope kind of. And
Hmm.
and I remember going, what if it's the World's Fair and it has all these crazy like the cash register building and the like transportation pavilion and there's all these and then it so I had all these ideas I drew up of what that would look like, and they ended up putting a lot of that in Mask of the Phantasm.
Oh,
Like
it's so cool.
that thing there's like a torpedo that people are there's like a rocket that people are walking up, and then there's walkways that go out to these
Yeah.
exhibits with the where the Batmobile is, the
Yeah.
future Batmobile,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Bruce
The
Wayne
one he
goes and looks at.
inspired by. Yeah.
That was just something that was something I drew on a post-it. And then there's like airplanes flying around, like Art Deco airplanes and stuff. And that was something I just compulsively was like, "Oh, we gotta do this," and,
Well, that's really
that
great
ended
to
a lot
hear.
of that was in it.
I mean, for someone like me, it's been so rare that I get the chance when I work with a writer that they say, "What are you interested in drawing?" And do you have any like ideas and this stuff? It seems like
Uh-huh.
today it's so closed off, and I think that's because in my industry now, sadly, everyone works from home and everyone's separated.
Oh,
I
it's
feel
all
like
remote, yeah,
yeah, but I feel like since
yeah,
you guys were together in essentially a bullpen, basically, that
yeah,
you were that friendship was born, and then that not more importantly, that artistic collaboration was born, so you were
mhm,
able to do stuff like that. And I think that always produces the best work, because you're getting passion on every level. The writer's passionate, the background artist is passionate, the character artist is passionate. I think that's
Yeah.
why the show was so fantastic, and I hope that studios continue to do stuff like that, because it creates truly long lasting creative works that we look at forever and say
Yeah.
that's the best.
I don't know if that's a thing of the past. I mean, literally, I haven't worked in animation in 20 years.
Mm.
So, like, I don't know what it's like now, you know? Uh, but back then it was, it was just like an office. I actually never had an office job, at like a regular office. And I didn't realize how typical our situation was as far as like, oh, this is what every office is like. Everyone has a cubicle and their boss is in the corner, and they make you close the door when you leave their office. All this dumb stuff that I was experiencing. I didn't realize that's what every office worker everywhere does, except we were drawing and coming up with ideas, like the
Right, yeah.
subject was different, but yeah, but it's just the fact that we were all together and we all liked each other and we all goofed around and came up with ideas was really interesting. I don't know if that's probably rare now. I don't know.
It
It's
is rare.
definitely in comics. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not. Which is, as you said, well, it's a shame because the content, I think, is hurt by that. We're talking about a show that was made 30 plus years ago because
Yeah.
of those things that you guys had.
Mhm.
So I've always been interested. There's always been speculation about how much of the show was done on black paper. Do you have
Mm.
any memory of how much of black paper was used? Is it the first few episodes, or was it for a lot of the
No,
show?
all the backgrounds were like that. I heard there were some shows made after that I'd never even heard of, and I only worked on stuff till 2004. So anything after that, I don't even know about. But uh,
That's the good stuff
yeah,
anyway, so it doesn't matter.
they would
Yeah.
paint like this one. I guess it might be hard to see, but that's a piece of black illustration board
Wow.
with airbrush on it.
So
So the
that
colors
is,
are all knocked down because they're on black.
you were showing us before. That's for our listeners in case they're not watching. That's like a cafe scene. And you said that it was potentially might have been rejected just due to something that needed to be changed and had to be redone.
Yeah,
Is that
it's a
correct?
John
Right.
Calmette painting, but he gave it to me because I think he had to do another one, But
Right.
and I have a lot of artwork, but it's all, you have to do something 9 times and then you do the final, or you do the final and they don't like it and you have to completely redo it. So I have a lot of stuff that's pretty, you know, interesting finished artwork almost, and then I have tons of stuff that's just like weird ideas and so forth. Um,
What from Batman specifically?
uh, yeah, but like I said, when I came on board Batman, it was mostly nailed down, even though I did come up with stuff on my own. But like the later shows, I know this is about BTAS,
No,
but
but please talk about the later shows. It's all
okay,
DCAU.
well,
We'd love to hear about it.
like the first thing we did that wasn't Batman, after we did Mask of the Phantasm, we did Superman.
Yep.
And we started talking about what is it going to be like, and it's going to be clean and bright and Art Deco, but daytime and nice, and not really the dark Gotham thing. And I did a bunch of drawings, and I have one drawing in particular I remember, but it was became what the I pretty much styled Superman. And
Mm-hmm.
also when we started doing Batman Beyond, same thing. Like Glen Murakami was doing shapes. He came up with a few shapes. Like, hey, what if the buildings look like this? And we were looking at stuff like Tokyo. The way Tokyo is just a lot of verticals and a lot of lights and crazy stuff all packed together.
Was there a bit
And
of Blade Runner in there as well?
yeah, Blade Runner 2. But also, like, I'd get a storyboard when we got the show going, I'd get a storyboard that would be like, the storyboard artist, they have a lot on their plate. They're just telling a story, and they're like, oh, this person walks in this cafe and they do this. But then it would be a car pulled up to a building. It could have been, 1940, but I had to push it to what we were doing. So I would always make it like, oh yeah, but this is a raised walk, a raised road, and we can see down. You could always see down. I always made sure there was like a vertical, like, like, oh, this is suspended. So I had to change that so many times. Like I'd get a storyboard and go, oh no, that's supposed to be like, I'd have to design it so it was futuristic.
It always
Right.
reminded me
So
of Star Wars with what's the name of the city where Palpatine is?
Bespin or
No, not Bespin.
Oh,
The mega city place.
that was
Coruscant.
in the
That's it.
Coruscant. Yeah, that's it.
That's what Batman
okay.
Beyond always reminded me of, because everything there is always like on a raised vertical level as well.
Oh,
But I
yeah,
guess the
okay.
Coruscant hadn't come out by then, or maybe it had just had, because obviously '99 is when we first saw Coruscant.
Okay,
And
yeah,
then
I'm not that
Batman
familiar with
Beyond.
the as
Batman
far
Beyond
as
came around that time. But yeah, you mentioned Bespin,
Yeah.
Cloud City. Yeah, that sounds like
the only
something.
I know. The only reason I said that is because it's in the air. But yeah, I realize
Right.
that's not really the style of. Doesn't really match Batman Beyond at all.
Someone told me the other day, and it blew my mind about Batman Beyond, is that Bruce Wayne's car that Terry sometimes drives, or he drives, like his town car, is
Mhm.
his Batmobile flipped upside down. And I was like, no, it's not. And I went and looked, and the grill of the Batmobile is flipped upside. You can see that it's the grill of the original Batmobile, and part of the design underneath it has similar lines. And I was stunned at how, like, it's obviously not the exact, but there's odes to it, and I was really surprised by that. It, like, you could see that there's
I
a lot of
can't think of what
similarities.
that is. I'm thinking of a Bruce Wayne car that looks like a cord, but maybe that's from one of the Batman ones.
Maybe,
I
yeah.
don't know.
I was. I mean, I'm not asking if it's confirmed or not, and I think it's creative interpretation when you see it. But there are
Yeah.
definitely little odes in there. Yeah, that's just a slight tangent. But to get back to your backgrounds, when you switched over to the new animation style with Superman, and then the new Batman Adventures, where obviously it's still the same universe, but everybody looks different. They're a bit cleaner and
Yeah.
smoother, and I'm sure the backgrounds are affected too. So, were you given any new direction that you remember, or was it kind of like just keep on doing your thing? It just looks a bit cleaner because the skies were really red. Like the picture behind Will right now is from the new Batman Adventures, and
Well, I don't remember. I mean, I wasn't painting anything, so the colors weren't on my plate. But as far as like having a direction, a lot of it was coming from me. I'd have to, like, I styled that city, so I would impress on whatever was going on. Oh, this has to be more like this, or. And obviously the directors would push me in one way or the other, but there wasn't like a set edict, I don't think, other than just the style that we came up with. So
What did you prefer drawing, Metropolis or Gotham City?
uh I don't know. They're all fun because Gotham was I just it was the first thing I'd worked on like that, and it was such a cool. I was just so happy to be a part of it, and I loved all the Art Deco stuff. And there's just so many things I had such a good time drawing, and that I'm proud of. But yeah, it was exciting to do. Superman and Batman Beyond were kind of cooler in that was the first person to work on them.
Right.
I was the first person to go, okay, it's going to look like this. So, just because I think I was one of the few people there. I think some people left when there wasn't much going on and we were developing stuff. They're just at a skeleton crew when we'd be developing the next thing. But
I just love that in those shows, both cities, all the backgrounds in those shows were an extra character in the show
yeah,
themselves. Like it's such a huge part of those shows is people always talk about like, oh, that Gotham. Like when I draw Gotham City, when I work for DC, I look at Batman the Animated Series. If I'm doing Metropolis, I look at Superman the Animated Series because to me, they are the best interpretations of those cities. And I feel like with Marvel, it's usually New York, but I feel like a lot of people forget with superheroes how important the backgrounds are to
Mhm.
create that world, that bigger, larger than life world. Because I always feel like I just got back from Dubai. That place looks like Superman the Animated Series
Oh,
Metropolis now.
yeah, yeah,
It's crazy. And there's
yeah.
there's buildings that I've seen that I'm like, I'm pretty sure that was in like one of the episodes. Like
That's the Daily
it's nuts.
Planet.
Yeah, no,
I wonder if they looked at Superman. We will build this. We will build this. Yeah.
potentially, yeah, potentially. There was one building outside my hotel where it had a big globe on the top of it. And I was just like, that's the Daily
Oh,
Planet.
the one thing I liked about Superman was going back to the idea that I'd be just talking to them about what if it was like this. I was designing the skyscraper that the villain. What's his name? I'm so bad with names. I can't remember stuff. The
It's all
what's
right.
the bald villain guy?
Lex,
Lex Luthor. Yeah.
Lex Luthor. Yeah, I just it's not all in there like
Don't
Lex
worry, I
Luthor.
get
Of
it.
course.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was
I bet
doing
if
his
I asked you what engine is in this vehicle, you'd know right away, though, right? Because that's your
course.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I did the skyscraper he's in, and then also the office. And I was talking to them, and I had an idea, and I went, "Hey, what if there's a shark tank that goes all the way around the room, and you have to walk through it to get into the office? It's really intimidating." And they were like, "Yeah, let's do it." So that's why there's a
Oh,
shark tank like
that's
that.
I love that add to Lex Luthor's office.
And
It's so
the
cool.
windows wrap around, and you can see it's the
Yeah.
very top of the building, and that was all just like me going, "What if it looks like this?" You know.
very
So
what Spy Love Me, is that the Bond with the Shark Tank?
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's definitely that thing, but applied to instead of being in an I don't know what that is in a volcano or something. It was up on a skyscraper, you know.
Yeah,
But
that's really cool. I love that.
yeah.
So, yeah, we've speaking of James Bond, we've had lots of people on the show, like Alan Burnett pulled heavily from Alfred Hitchcock. Like that was a big
Uh-huh.
influence from him. And I know you said that you were big into architecture, especially Art Deco. Were there
Mhm.
ever any films that influenced you as well in your art, or does it when you came to designing not just Batman but any of the shows?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely stuff like Blade Runner. The environment was such a big part of the movie, and
Hmm.
I would watch that over and over with Glenn. You know, Glen Murakami was he came on I think a year after I started on Batman, and but we grew up together, and we'd be up all night at his house, like watching old movies and drawing stuff and trying to talking about the comic books we're gonna do that we never did, you know. But like there was so much of hey, you got to see this, and we would fan out on something and pick it apart and sort of get everything we could out of it, and there were so many things like that, and we were like super fans of Dave Stevens, and we would always try everything to do with Rocketeer and all that, but like but anyway,
Awesome.
he got a job there, and he just went immediately became a director, you know. They were just like, "Oh, this guy can do so much." So that, he went way up the ladder real quick and did a lot at Warner Brothers, and
Yeah.
still is a big figure in. But yeah, just as far as how we would find things that inspired us and find where they came from and who did it and what makes it tick. And then like he told me he'd be like trying to hire well, this is like 10 years ago, but he was like, I'm trying to hire people and they don't do that. They don't have art that they're obsessed with. They just like they look at a someone who's successful right now and they draw like that person. And they don't have any
Right.
history of influences. And I don't know if that's more the way it happens now. Like you just go, "Oh, I gotta learn how to draw like Bruce Timm, so I'm gonna do that as well as I can." But you don't have a history of like, "Oh, I watched North by Northwest and the way that scene went and the way it was," blocked out, or like I don't know if people do that, or maybe they do. I don't know, but like I've heard people complain that there's not as much of that now. But I don't know.
I mean, I went to film school, and I fell in love with cinema, the whole history of it, and I'm a huge like cinema buff, and I watch movies that are way too old
Mhm.
for most like modern tastes. And I don't know if maybe it's becoming more of a not something to study, but something that is just kind of a thing that you're just into. I don't know, but
Mhm.
but I will say that at film school, I was forced to watch Battleship Potemkin and Trip to the Moon way too many times. I'm like, let me watch Hitchcock or something fun. Like, I don't need to
Yeah.
see the
Yeah.
like day one history. I've seen the train come at me. Like, it's fine. I get it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, you were talking before about works that you're proud of as far as the shows you worked on. Now, you've worked on so many backgrounds, so if some don't come to mind, I understand. But maybe you do have some, so I'll ask: do you have any particular favorite backgrounds you designed that you're most proud of for any of the shows?
Well, one thing. Well, here's a couple things. The opening of Batman Beyond was that montage, that fast-paced montage that Darwin Cook came up with.
Didn't
Right.
know
I
that
don't know
Darwin
if you
Cook
remember
was.
the opening
I didn't know
sequence.
that either. That's
I didn't know
It's
that
awesome.
at all.
it's like zooming in on the city, like over the
Oh, we
ocean.
remember
You
the
can see the
intro.
water, water, water.
Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you, Keith. It's burnt into our memory.
Because Darwin was like, I want this, and I want this to be just a black and white drawing, and he had me draw the city, and so I did that, and that's the opening shot of uh, when you that's the first thing, the opening credits of Batman Beyond, and then also I think it ends, from remembering, it ends on looking down at Terry looking way down into this labyrinth of city, and it
Hmm.
pans up to the eye level of the whole city, and that's this thing. I don't know, I guess the people who are listening won't see it, but this is just an ink wash little thing I did while screwing around at my desk,
Do you want to
and
put just a bit closer to the camera, just so we?
this
Wow.
became. I did a tighter version of this, which I'll show you in a second, and
Okay.
that is part of the opening sequence too. It's here's the the tight
Oh
background.
yeah. Oh yeah. I recognize that immediately.
Yeah,
That
so
chunky
that's
building in the background that's almost got like a little bit extra chunk on top. That one is like
yeah,
so Batman Beyond to me. I
yeah. Well,
instantly
that
see
was
that.
the when I was talking about, like, Glenn did some like shapes, and he's like, this is going to be the what these look. He came up with that beveled pyramid thing, and a lot of the buildings were like that. And but the first I did that. I don't know if that's the first one I did. I think the first one I did was the high school. I don't know. I'll show
Okay.
you a few of these. This is just a street with a theater
Oh
in
wow.
Batman Beyond,
That's great.
and then
It's so funny. The amount of times I've like looked at buildings where I've been like, that's a Batman
I can't
Beyond
remember what's
building
in
right
here.
there.
Yeah, yeah. Just assigning it
Like you
instantly to
see like
one of the
a
shows.
one with like a
And
slant
this
on the
is
side.
Yes.
the police station.
Oh wow, yeah,
That's so great.
redone in the future because I think it's
Yeah,
built on the old one from the original
yeah. I mean,
animated.
it looks a little traditional architecture, but then it's got all the crazy stuff around it. And
Yeah.
and Fox Industries is just like a weird shop vac held up by walkways.
Wow.
It was a really weird one because it's entirely suspended. Um, but yeah, the first background that set the whole style for Batman Beyond was the the high school. I don't know if I have that in here. I don't think I have that. This is another one, Gotham Shipping.
Oh my
But
god, that's so good. You can see the Blade Runner there as well in that particular one.
yeah,
Well, it
yeah,
also reminds you of like just mega cities from Judge Dredd and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, definitely.
yeah. I don't think I have it here, but I did like a color rendering that was the high school, and it looks like a crazy mall with different levels and you can really see the depth and height of everything. And that was the first finished background that they went, oh yeah, that's what this show should look like, you know.
I always found like a weirdly future version of like Egyptian architecture vibe to Batman
Uh-huh.
Beyond. I don't know if that was a part
Yeah,
of the
well, there was like the
conversation.
pyramids. There was a lot
Yeah,
of like big shapes with just little slits in them and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where he came up with that because Glenn kind of came up with that, you know, wedge shapes on top of pyramids and stuff like that,
Mm.
with like randomly lit geometric signs and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it suits the show so well. I remember that show premiering as a kid. I remember it being
Hmm.
such a big deal, and I have a specific memory, and someone on Instagram on another account shared the TV promo that ran before the first premiere episode of Batman Beyond, and it was like, you've seen Batman but not like this, and it was like all these flashing images, and then it
Uh,
showed all these different Batmen before that, like Michael Keaton's Batman, and then you had Kevin Conroy, and you had
oh
all these iterations, and it's like,
yeah.
now get ready for Batman of the future. And I just remember it went straight into that intro, and
Hmm.
you got that guitar, and you got, I couldn't believe it's Darwin Cook, you just told us that, but like all of those flashing different images that
Hmm.
pop up, and instantly as a kid I'm like, I'm in, like
Yeah.
immediately.
Well, yeah, it felt like the MTV era of Batman, right? Like it was
Yeah.
Yes.
like I'm gonna
That
play.
nightclub where Terry's falling asleep and he's at a nightclub. I think that's in the opening too. But that was really fun because Glenn and I were looking at like these, you know, '60s science fiction novel covers, and I forget the artist that did all these blobby things, and uh, we did like the speaker towers were those shapes like on those sci-fi covers. I forget the artist, but that club had a really unique look though. After
Mm.
after
Yeah, I
we
mean,
figured out.
you did Return of the Joker too, man. Like, you know, you worked on that,
Oh
and that
well,
what a
Return of the
film.
Joker was interesting because it was not that many people worked on it. Like everyone was laid off when we were doing that, and there was only a few people working there. It was very
Crazy.
quiet, and when on the floor we were there was, you know, the director, and then as far as our part of it, Ted Blackman was there, who was the background supervisor, and me. So like
Wow.
Ted did a bunch of stuff. Ted did half the movie, and I did the other half.
Right.
And a lot of the stuff I did was stuff that he already had done roughs of, like the Candy Factory. He did really tight roughs of that, and I just kind of styled it out and detailed it a little more and did the lighting a little more, you know,
Mhm.
nice. But that was a trip because I it turned out we did a whole feature that was just two guys, you know, doing the backgrounds.
That's crazy.
And
That's
not the painting,
crazy.
but I don't remember
Yeah,
who did the painting on that, but like
the
you know, as far
designs.
as designing the whole thing was me and Ted, you know.
Wow,
And I did a
that's
lot of
nuts.
it, but a lot of it he did probably 75% of it as far as like, you know, figuring out what something was going to be, and you know, was already in the storyboard. And but yeah, that Candy Factory was a really complicated thing to flesh out. And yeah, the thing at the end where all the twisted shit happens, it's like a wrestling arena at a school or something like that, and I had to figure that whole thing out. And there was the Joker had made sort of a sitcom set in it,
Mhm.
because it was like a little wrestling arena with a seats and a little corral at the bottom where they would do the wrestling. But then it was like there was a little sitcom set where he was teasing videos of like, oh, here's what's
Torturing
going to happen
Robin.
to yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah. Well,
So and then there was
that
a
was all in
bathroom.
Arkham. That was the abandoned Arkham
Oh,
Asylum,
was
and
it in Arkham?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it was
I
in
don't
Arkham,
remember
yeah.
everything about it, but
That's
I
alright.
remember it was like a little arena. But anyway, there's a back room where there's all
I
this.
think it was, like, supposed to be like, what's it where you can, back in the day, you could watch people do surgery. I can't remember, theater of
Oh,
some
was it
kind,
was it
like
Operating
a
was it
theater.
supposed to be more like an
operate.
operating arena?
That's and then he had a projector in there, and he was showing Batman he was in the projection room, and Batman was kind of running around the theater looking for him. Yeah.
And then there was a side room off to that where there was all that Bride of Frankenstein stuff, like kind of weird devices and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really complex thing too. And then
and only two of you guys doing it. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's the only thing I ever worked on that was that comprehensive for just we had to cover so much,
Was it a tight deadline?
Not exactly, but it was just, because there was only two of us, I don't remember how long we worked on it, like 3 or 4 months or something. But yeah, it was neat because usually the shows we'd try to get them out fast, so there'd be 5 or 6 guys working on just a 20-minute episode, or I forget what a half-hour show is. It's like 22 minutes.
It's 22 minutes. Yeah.
So you get like 5 or 6 people doing 22 minutes of whatever that needs to be. So usually you have enough time to. Each person's got 5 or 6 backgrounds to do, and then a lot of times you just do like one side of the room and the other side real quick, and you'd send that overseas, and they'd figure out the rest of it.
Right. Do you have a director that you were particularly? I mean, I'm sure it's probably going to be Glenn that you're going to say, but do you have a director on Batman the Animated Series that you particularly like working with and collaborating with?
Oh boy, I don't know, because I didn't. You would work on whatever. It was kind of random. Like you'd go, okay, we're doing this episode, and then Dan Reba's the director, and then the next couple of weeks it would be somebody else. So like I worked with all of them. And I was friendly with all of them, so it was always pretty
easy to work with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I've got one more question for you, which I've always been curious about when it came to the backgrounds of Batman the Animated Series. So you've got these lovely, beautiful, lush Art Deco backgrounds, and as you said, you sometimes got to do cars, and they were all static.
Mm-hmm.
You've got these beautiful buildings, architecture, Arkham Asylum, Ace Chemicals, the whole lot of Gotham. But sometimes we get static imagery of characters that's done in that background style. They're really rich, sort of, again, like matte paintings is the only way I can describe them. Was that something that you guys got to do as well, where it was like, it would be a static of like a close-up? We just reviewed the first Riddler episode, and there's a shot of him in the dark that's definitely like hand-drawn, painted by one of the background artists, and just his mouth is the only thing that's animated, right? The rest is just static. And just out of curiosity, did you guys ever get to do any of that, or is that something that went to the animation overseas?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I've definitely drawn figures.
I can try and pull up an example here.
It was usually like a mannequin or something that a costume was on.
Right.
Or
but you can, I don't know if you can see, you see this Two-Face here? That is definitely, besides the eye, that is hand-drawn painted that looks like the background.
Okay.
Same with Mr. Freeze, right? Like besides the mouth and the eyes, that's all painted, is quite rich. So just curious if you guys, there's the Riddler I was talking about.
I never drew anything like that was a close-up of a character. I would only do like, it's, Batman's in the Batcave, and he's got a bunch of suits on display, and they're
So that would be a different department then, essentially, like close-up character.
I don't know. But yeah, there was lots of things that, like one thing I just popped into my head, the Catwoman's hideout in like Central Park, whatever the park was, Gotham Central Park. It was like a big sculpture of a cat.
Yeah, we just watched that episode. Yeah.
And I had just been studying the Statue of Liberty and how it was made and what the inside looks like.
Oh, right.
And there's all these, bronze sections put together with iron straps and rivets, and I made it look like that on the inside of that thing,
That's
so I was all into that.
I remember, I can't remember anything I say on this podcast, but I remember particularly saying, like, didn't I say, like, wow, the background artist, like, really, like, went to town on this
On
background,
that,
something like that.
yeah,
Didn't I?
you did, yeah. And we I think we referenced the Statue of Liberty because she's inside the head of the cat and she's looking out the eye.
I just remember all the
Uh-huh.
pipes and like there was like so
Yeah.
much detail in
You
the
did.
background
You
inside.
did say that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
The name of the episode is Cat Scratch Fever. This is where my crazy love for the show comes in handy sometimes with knowing
Oh,
that
one
stuff.
other thing that popped into my head was there's one episode I did all by myself because it was kind of a mistake. I had nothing to do over the Christmas break in '93, and they were like, "Here, do some freelance, do this show," and I think it was the Man Who Killed Batman, and they go, "Well, here's the storyboard. Just do what you can. Do as many backgrounds as you can." So I did the whole show. I broke it down. Okay, you're gonna need this. You're gonna need this. You're gonna need this. I don't remember how many I did, and they were, it was hardly any money for each one. It was like, I don't remember. It was like $100 or $120. It wasn't very much, but I did like, 30. So I made like a bunch of money, and they were like, and I didn't have any like my family wasn't doing anything over the break, and I wasn't dating anyone at the time, so I just like went home and worked, and I did the whole show, and I turned it in, and they were like, "Oh, this is great," but like, I think they just figured they were going to delegate the rest of it when I got back, and they never gave anyone that much freelance again because they were like, "Oh, he just made $3,500 or whatever it was." So like, I think it was like they didn't. And I went and bought a '50 Ford Custom and drove that. I went and bought a car. I was like, oh. But
thank you, The Man Who Killed Batman, and it's a great episode and great car.
So I really enjoyed that show because it bought me a really neat car.
He really must not have a girlfriend, or his family must be busy.
But after that, I realized they go, "Here, we need this done, but we just need like 2 backgrounds." It was
2, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's that's a highly loved episode.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it really is. It's one we're looking forward to getting into because, it's a great story, and the Joker is just always great in this show. He's fun to do.
Yeah.
There's even in that episode, Joker is sitting on this clown throne, and it's you can tell it's background drawn, like it was one of your backgrounds. So if you worked on that, you must have designed that as well. This beautiful clown throne.
The only thing I remember is because if I did a bunch of I would make a Xerox of a background that I liked and I'd take it home. But like some of them I just didn't make copies of, and I don't even remember them,
Right.
But if I watched the episode, I might. But I remember all the stuff by the dock.
Yeah.
There was like a big propane tank on the wharf or something. There was a lot to do with that.
Like the third act, right?
Huh?
Yeah, in the beginning, there's at the docks where Batman is presumed to be killed because
because there's an explosion, right? I'm just barely remembering it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah. And I've been saving I haven't seen it in a while because I've been saving it for the podcast. But if memory serves me correctly, that's the beginning, and then there's the whole Ace Chemicals funeral that Joker holds for Batman.
Oh, Ace Chemical. Somebody I think it was your.
It was on our. Keith. This is how I messaged you because someone tagged you in that image and said, "Did you work on this?"
Right? And I went, "No, I only did the Ace Chemical." Like that
yes, and then I immediately was like, "I'm messaging this dude."
Okay.
So that's thank you to whoever did that because that's how you ended up on the show, which is awesome.
Cool.
So that about wraps up all the questions I have.
Okay.
But before we head out, is there anything that you can share? What are you working on these days? Do you want people to find you on social media? Go ahead and plug your social media if you want people to check out your artwork and such.
I mainly my main platform is Instagram, and it's the I don't remember, it's Keith Weesner 1958 or just Weesner 1958. Either one.
I'll put it in the episode description so people.
And I'm really easy to find because I have a weird name. Like if you Google Weesner, it's just endless pictures of art I've done. So
nice.
There's that, and then
it's
have
it's Weesner 1958.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a Big Cartel, which is keithweesnerart.bigcartel.com. And that is where I sell prints and I sell original drawings and sometimes paintings. And that's pretty much where all my income comes from.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'll include all those links below so people
Okay.
can click on it and go check it out.
I see that your
Keith-
social media is full of cool cars, cute dogs, and Batman the Animated Series drawings. I mean, that's one of there's 3 of my favorite things. So you gotta follow from me.
Keith, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the pod. Thanks for coming on, man. And in future, we'd love to have you back on, and maybe some more background artists as well, and maybe talk about specific episodes that you guys worked on, or when we come to review movies like Return of the Joker, getting people like you guys that worked on it and getting that insider info that jogs your memory when you see things would be fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, maybe you could talk to Ted Blackman. He's not super outgoing, but he would be able to tell you a lot. But
well, you shared a hell of a lot today, man. I appreciate it. Your memory is better than you give
thanks for the
yourself credit.
interest. It was fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming on. All right, we hope you guys all enjoyed that. It was such a pleasure to have Keith Weesner on the show. Buddy, I'm so glad you could join us for that, because as he was a fellow artist, I really wanted you there, and I'm so glad you could make it. What did you think of Keith?
Great. I mean, like I was saying, like that bullpen and mentality of people working together. There's so many times in comics where I work now where sometimes there's no contact between me and the writer at all. Like, it's just through editorial. And there's so many little things. Like for instance, you're my editor-in-chief, right, of Speech Comics. I show you my story, and then you say, hey, wouldn't it be cool if like this, and this happened? I'm like, fuck yeah, it would. And I think so many people like push away from collaboration because they're like, but it's my story, it's me. Where it's like, no, bring people in to make it better because they have different perspectives and different talents. Like his love of the World Fair, that's synonymous with that fucking movie now, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it really is. Yeah.
So
welcome.
Exactly.
We're not brothers or anything.
No. Yep. Oh, my wife's cooking something. Oh, it smells good downstairs. Oh yeah.
Anyway, what the fuck was I talking about?
We gotta wrap this up because that smells good, goddamn.
She's an artist of her own right.
That's right.
In cooking.
Oh, yeah. I know what she's doing. She's making me bagels for my birthday for tomorrow.
Wow, what a lucky birthday boy.
Smelling everything bagels right now, boiling away in the pot.
You're like, what are we talking about?
What are we talking about? What show is this? Batman the Animated Series?
Yeah, going back to Keith, I just loved learning so many cool things, like Darwin Cook designing Batman Beyond intro. That blew my mind.
All right, Christopher Walken. Darwin Cook designing Batman Beyond intro. Wow.
Blew my mind. Yeah, that was amazing. And just as you said, the backgrounds are just such a character in their own right for these shows, and learning like just the things that he contributed, his inspirations, and seeing those pieces that he still has. Like, such a cool guest. I was so happy to have him on. So yeah, we hope you guys all enjoyed that, because that was a lot of fun. And if you did listen, it might be worth hopping over to a platform that was video so you could see those sketches that he was sharing, because they're definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, all right, some of them are on his Instagram as well.
That's true. Some of them are on his Instagram. All right, buddy. So that concludes our interviews portion of this episode. Next week, we will come back to review Joker's Wild, which is the episode, obviously, that has Joker
running wild.
Yeah, it's his casino, isn't it? That he's like.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. So I haven't seen that one in a long time either, because as I said in the interview with Keith, I'm holding out and watching a lot of these episodes because I just want to wait for the pod. But I find myself being like, I'll stick Batman the Animated Series on, and I'm like, no, I can't, because I want to wait for the pod. So yeah.
The pod is a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, I've been like, every time we get to a certain point of reviewing episodes, I'm like, I can watch a few more now. You know what I mean? Like I have a bit more in my backlog. Yeah, like, so it's on Leather Wings all the way up to whatever we just reviewed last week. If You're So Smart,
Riddler,
White.
I hardly know.
Yeah.